Alright guys, Revolver Rustler here, and today I am here with a special video. I do want to apologise first. The lighting is still dreadful, but it's not about the lighting, it's about what I'm saying. The video's actual picture isn't important, it's all about what I'm saying. Today I'm going to be reviewing All In 2024. I got back from London only a few hours ago. I was there live. Will Ospreay jersey, rough jersey, which I bought from down there, and I got back a few hours ago, as I said, and I just wanted to get a video up. It's one of my favourite things, talking about wrestling, when I'm passionate about it, or it gets me. And I was there at All In, just like last year. Oh God, it was marvellous. Let me not spoil the show too much, but it was brill. Obviously, I will say, as I said last year, I have a visual impairment. This year I took a monocle, so like a monocular, like a binocular, but a singular one. And I used that for a lot of the matches. I have enough on every match, kind of like last year, to give it a rating, I'm pretty sure. So, let's just go ahead. It's a long show, it's a lot of matches. We got to the building around 3:30, and we were inside after 4. And we saw all the matches in their entirety, did not miss a thing. I was there with 4 friends, had an absolutely lovely weekend, did other things as well, like going on football stadium tours and things like that. But it was all about going to All In. And just like last year, I think last year when I finished my review or whatever, I said it was one of the best experiences of my life. This year, this was one of the best experiences of my life. Especially at a certain point, but we will get to that. So let's get into the pre-show. There were 2 matches for the pre-show before the show started. They added one for no reason, just to get people on the show. So the opening match on the pre-show was a 16-man tag. 16 men. There was no way I was going to remember all this. Had a long weekend in London. So it was the team of Tommy Billington, Kip Sabian, Rocky Romero, Kyle Fletcher, Leo Rush, Action Andretti, and Top Flight Darius and Dante Martin, taking on Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, Anthony Ogogo, Arya Davari, Private Party, which is Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn, and the Dark Order, which is John Silver and Alex Reynolds, and they were all accompanied by Evil Uno and Sonjay Dutt. This is the match I've probably seen the least of. It was the first match on the show. I was just kind of getting attuned to where I needed to be looking, and what, my monocular, how deep it needed to be, and things like that, or how strict I needed to have it focused, things like that. But I thought what was there was pretty good. There was some comedy bits with Satnam Singh and Leo Rush, or, well, not really. Satnam Singh just killed him. But it was all about, in the end, Dante Martin pinning someone with the twisting splash. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. It was probably better than that, but there's 11 minutes and there's 16 people. So I'll give it 2.5 stars. It was what it was. The second match on the show, on the pre-show, was the mixed tag team match as Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii, I'll get to in a minute, took on Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway. There's only one set where I saw this match going, and that was Ishii killing Stokely Hathaway. I never believed in my life I'd be watching a Tomohiro Ishii match in person. And look, it isn't like Ishii and Okada. It isn't Ishii and Jeff Cobb, or it isn't Ishii and Goto, or Ishii and Naito. But I've seen Ishii. That's the main thing. And Ishii was... he was great. I'm going to try not to swear in this, but I'm a bit more passionate because it was so real and rare. He was great. Basically, the match was mostly Willow and Chris Statlander. And they're pretty good wrestlers. I really like both. I really liked Willow and Chris. They basically wrestled each other, and Stokely helped Chris get an upper hand at certain moments. And eventually, Willow tagged in Ishii. Ishii came in. Stokely actually squared up to Ishii. Ishii just clotheslined him and just killed the poor man. And they did some bits, and Stokely at one point got powerbombed, and Willow got rid of Chris Statlander, and Ishii gave Stokely a sliding D, which is the running lariat on the floor, and pinned Stokely. So that means that Willow gets to pick the stipulation for Willow and Chris Statlander's match at All Out in 2 weeks. So great. I got this prediction right as well. I didn't predict the first match because we couldn't in the stadium. I'm going to give this 2 3/4 stars, slightly better. I enjoyed this more because I enjoyed it. It was just a kind of funny comedy match, and it was Ishii, and kind of what I thought would happen happened when Ishii just killed Stokely. 2 3/4 stars. You can't expect much more from Stokely Hathaway, who isn't a wrestler, so fair enough. Third match and final match on the pre-show was a 10-man tag. This was Dustin Rhodes, Sammy Guevara, Marshall and Ross Von Erich, and Katsuyori Shibata. I see Shibata wrestle as well. Jesus. And they took on the team of the Undisputed Kingdom, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, and and the Cage of Agony, which is Brian Cage, Toa Leona, and Bishop Khan. I really like Brian Cage. Brian Cage, I thought, looked really good in this match. Probably one of the ones I thought looked the best. But in the end, kind of basic tag like the 10-man, 16-man tag. But what can you do with 16 or 10 people in 10 minutes or whatever? Sammy did some flippy stuff. The Von Erichs looked pretty good as well. It was basically just the babyfaces doing all their cool bits, and the heels accepting their fate of being losers. And in the end, Dustin Rhodes hit a final cut, so I could just hear the noise from downstairs. Dustin Rhodes hit a final cut and pinned probably Taven or Bennett. I'm going to give this 2.5 stars as well. It was an opening tag. Dustin Rhodes looked pretty good in it too. And that was the pre-show. So we got on to the main show. And we were all in the stadium watching them set up the ladders. So we knew the opening contest would be the Fatal 4-Way Ladders match for the AEW Trios Championships, which pitted the champions, the Patriarchy, which is Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, and Killswitch, formerly Luchasaurus, against the team of House of Black, which is Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews, against the team of the Bang Bang Gang, which was Austin and Colton Gunn and Juice Robinson, against the kind of put together Blackpool Combat Club team of Claudio Castagnoli, who I was wearing a shirt of, by the way, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and Pac, the Geordie-born Englishman. And this ladder match, I never thought was like a super spectacular ladder match, but I thought it was very good. For me, the standout was Nick Wayne. He hit a Wayne's World over the post to Brody King for a table on the outside. He then did one in the ring. Christian at one point got knocked headfirst into a table rather than go through it. That looked fairly scary. What else happened? Claudio did a bunch of uppercuts at one point. Brody King cleared house at one point as well with the sentons and things like that. Malachi Black hit a Black Mass. Both members of the Bang Bang Gang got on the back of Claudio Castagnoli and Luchasaurus. Killswitch, sorry, so hard. Killswitch at one point, and they put them in sleeper holds as they were climbing the ladders, and they fell backwards. Christian, Killswitch, and Nick Wayne at the beginning of the match actually just ran backstage. Martha Wayne at one point tried to spray Juice Robinson with spray, and Juice Robinson sprayed her instead. And I thought it was a pretty good ladder match. I never thought it got super good. But in the end, Pac hit a Black Arrow and stuff. Wheeler didn't do a lot. I don't think Buddy Matthews really did a lot either. But yeah, Nick Wayne to me was the star in this match. Nick Wayne has got a bright future. In the end, kind of a surprising finish. Luchasaurus is helping Christian Cage climb the ladder when suddenly Pac climbs the ladder and just boots Christian Cage down, pulls down one of the Trios Championships, which means they have won the match. Pac Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta are the new Trios champions. I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. It never got super great. I thought Nick Wayne was very good, as I've said a couple of times. But yeah, 3.5 stars feels about right for this match. Second match on the show, the Glamour Mariah May against Timeless Toni Storm. Probably the most built match on the card. I don't think either lady got a special entrance. Toni Storm obviously on the Tron had her all black and white entrance. This to me, for a long time, was the best match on the show. I am a super big fan of Mariah May. I think she's awesome. I think this feud has been excellent, and I don't even just mean the team, the actual partnership. I think since Mariah turned heel and surprised everybody so dramatically, my notion was that Mariah was going to win the Owen Hart Cup and Toni would just turn on her. And it's mental that they did the switch to Mariah being the heel, and it worked so well. That segment, or that segment of Mariah turning on Toni and beating her to death with the shoe and making her bleed is fantastic. It's in my brain right now as one of AEW's best segments all year. And that led into this match. And it was all about Mariah's promo work's been good, build's been good, Toni's been good. Toni's promos have been excellent. She's become unhinged now because her apprentice has betrayed her. And the match they had was, to me, excellent. I really think this is one of AEW's best women's matches in a long time. And it was all about Mariah controlling Toni early, shotgun dropkick, shotgun knees into the corner, big shotgun dropkick off the top rope to Toni. She also gave Luther a shotgun dropkick on the outside. But eventually, she went outside and she smacked her own mother. Mariah May smacked her own mother in the crowd. And this pissed Toni Storm off enough that Toni Storm gave Mariah May a Storm Zero piledriver on the steps, which busted Mariah May open. She took her in the ring and started to control the match. Mariah May would eventually come back. She hit a Mayday for a near fall. Toni would hit a series of moves and suplexes and stuff like that. Mariah May would begin to use Toni Storm's own offense, which she would hit hip attacks in the corner while she's bleeding. She was bleeding quite a lot as well. She did a couple of hip attacks in the corner to Toni, and eventually, obviously, she hit the Mayday. Toni hit the Storm Zero for a near fall of her own. And towards the end of the match, Mariah May went for the AEW Women's Championship, but Luther grabbed it and held it, and he flipped her off, and that was fantastic. It's probably the only time Luther's ever been cheered. The crowd, by the way, were quiet for this match at the beginning. They were really loud for the ladder match. Super loud for the ladder match. Super loud when Pac won as well. Absolutely unexpected. They were quiet for this match until the match started to get going. So towards the end of the matchup, Toni got the shoe. Oh, there's a great spot as well, which harkens back to Mariah turning on Toni and hitting her with a shoe, where she's just got her between her legs and Toni's facing forward and she's just hitting her in the head. That was a great spot that harkened back to that brilliant segment. But towards the end of the match, Toni had the shoe and she was going to hit Mariah with it, and she decided not to, and that gave Mariah a chance to hit a knee and then hit a Storm Zero, taking the move from the Master after she'd already hit the Mayday, and she pinned Toni to win the AEW Women's Championship. I think the finish is great. I'm a big fan of Mariah May. I'm a big fan of the finish. Toni's been a good champion. This is her best match as champion, in my opinion. Probably not even close. 4.25 stars. I've seen varying reviews on this. I thought this was excellent. And I think for a long time, this is the best thing on the show. Third match, so 4.25 stars to Mariah and Toni. And also, after the match, Mariah very quickly, she held the bell up, very quickly moved backstage, and then Toni got a little moment with the crowd to enjoy it. The crowd loved Toni Storm. Toni Storm, loads of chants for Toni Storm. Mariah May was very obviously hated. in her home country, apart from maybe me and one guy next to me who was a big Mariah May fan as well, obviously. But yeah, 4.25 stars. I thought it was an excellent women's match. Next match on the show. We are down to match 3 already. The FTW Championship match as Hook took on the FTW champion, the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho came out and he performed the Learning Tree song with Fozzy like he did last year. It was nowhere near as good because everybody knows the words to Judas. The Learning Tree song is a joke and it's supposed to be, so nobody knew the words. And he came out and he said, "Hi guys," and everyone got involved in that. I would say that the crowd were fairly up for these next couple of matches. After the end of the Mariah match, it was very strange that they were so down for the early Toni Mariah match. Maybe the ladder match just blown them apart too much. But I'd always have a ladder match as the first match. I think that's a great place to put a ladder match. So yeah, Jericho and Hook. This was like my least favourite thing on the main show. It was a typical kind of FTW rules match. I'm kind of over Jericho now being in these positions. You know, he goes into a quick feud with someone. He tends to either win a belt or he'll win the belt, or he'll just beat somebody. And then he'll have a couple of months of being Jericho, and then he'll lose the next match. And that's what this was. Big Bill, who was the most over person on the Collision show a few days before, and he was still a very heavy favourite in this building. Big Bill and Brian Keith double-teamed, or triple-teamed, Hook until he took all 3 of them out. He got a cricket bat and some cricket balls and started whacking them at Jericho, but eventually Jericho hit a lion salt for a near fall. He went for the Judas effect, but Hook stopped it. And Big Bill went crashing through a table on the outside after taking, Hook's suplexes and T-bones and the things Hook does. I'm maybe starting to think, I really like Hook. I think Hook is a bit like Nick Wayne, where 10 years from now, if AEW is still a thing, top of the card, pretty much, it'll be the MJF, basically. Maybe needs a more diverse moveset, though. Like, Taz did a lot of throws as well, but his finish isn't that interesting, and some of his moves sometimes aren't that interesting. But in the end, Big Bill was taken out through a table. Taz got off the announce table and got Brian Keith in a Taz mission, which got a crowd to pop and chant ECW. And then Jericho got caught in the red run by Hook. Hook wins back the FTW Championship. He's the third. He is a 3-time FTW champion. And I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. Not my cup of tea. And probably the worst match. Worst match on the show. Probably even counting the pre-show stuff. Just 10 minutes. It was kind of nothing, basically. Kind of nothing. And after the Mariah match, it was a bit of a letdown. By the way, we ordered a Mariah May shirt today. Basically, we went to... A little anecdote. We went to the merch stands before All Out. We actually went the day before, and they had merch stands down Wembley Way. And so I picked up this, and I was like, oh, I'll pick up a t-shirt when we get to Wembley. But during the pre-show, we just didn't end up going to the merch stands. So I ended up just ordering a Mariah May shirt off AEW Global Shop because they had a sale. So, super cool. The fourth match on the main show was the AEW World Tag Team Championship match. Triple threat match as the Young Bucks, Nicholas and Matthew Jackson, who came out dressed as the Beatles, took on the Acclaimed, who arrived. They made an EDL reference in their rap, very good rap this year, as was last year's, and they were also against FTR. I thought this was pretty good. I didn't think it was great. I've listened to The Observer. Dave thinks this was the first great match on the show. No, Brian Alvarez said this was the first great match on the show. I thought this was pretty good. I didn't think it ever got super good. Like the FTR Young Bucks match, I think last year was the best match on the show. And this was nowhere near that. They did a couple of cool things, like, the Bucks got tossed around early because there's 2 babyface teams. Eventually they'd start to take control, and they did like the moonsault to the outside, the face buster. You know, all the book stuff, the super kicks and the stuff. At one point, Max Caster and Matt Jackson did a EVP trigger together, which was fun. And then I think Bowens and Dax Harwood did a big rig, the Shout Machine, to Nick Jackson. So you know, they were like doing finishes together, which was nice. Bowens hit the Arrival. Max Caster hit the Mike Jock elbow. That pin got broken up. Towards the end, though, Matt Jackson grabbed one of the Jacksons grabbed the belts, the tag belts. They hit Bowens with the belt. He kicked out of the pin. They both grabbed his arm, hit they hit their first EVP trigger, pinned Bowens. The Bucks retain. It was about 14 minutes, and you can have 14-minute great matches, obviously. The Mariah Toni match, I think, was only 15. But I thought this was pretty good. It never got great. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars as well. It sounds like I'm down on it. I think today was expected slightly more. You know, the Bucks and FTR, I said, had the best match on All In last year, really. I think the Ospreay match was maybe my favourite. With Jericho, weirdly. It was an all-time great, but he's 54 or whatever. But yeah, I thought this was a very good match. 3.5 stars. Don't want to be too down on it. Then we moved into easily the most chaotic match of All In, and easily the match that's the hardest to keep track of. So, the Casino Gauntlet Match. Apparently we've done a few of these. I didn't even realise they'd done a few of these. So, the Casino Gauntlet Match, the rules are, there are no rules. So, apparently, there are no rules, no countouts, no DQs, anything like that. There's also varied times to when people can come in. And there's also not a limit on how many people can come in. So, I kept thinking there was. I kept thinking it was like a Casino Battle Royal before we even predicted. And I think I predicted Hangman because I was like, oh, we'll just win it because it's a Casino Battle Royal and you get a title match or whatever. But no, this was a Casino Gauntlet match, and it was the first person to get a pinfall or submission wins the match. So, Orange Cassidy was number 1. And number 2 was Kazuchika Okada. Okay? Okada is one of my favourite wrestlers of all time. On this show, there's Okada, who's one of my favourites of all time. There's Bryan Danielson, talk about him eventually. There's Will Ospreay. Man, who else is there? They're the main ones, okay? And I never thought I'd see Okada wrestle. And when Okada wasn't on All In this year, I was like, oh no. Like, I'll see him do something. I'll see him come out with the Young Bucks. No interference in the Young Bucks match, by the way. Apart from Billy Gunn hitting a Famouser at one point. Got a massive pop. Yeah, the crowd were pretty into the three-way. I never thought I'd see Okada wrestle. And when he came out second, the crowd went mental. This match was the crowd's fanfare, you know, what would you call it, pandering match. It was them literally looking at the ramp and going, yes, whenever anybody came out, and even if it was somebody they knew was coming out. But Okada, different gravy, blew me mind. So Okada and Orange Cassidy are wrestling, and Okada's being 50% Okada. Did a beautiful dropkick towards the end of the match there on Roderick Strong. And number 3 was Nigel McGuinness. Oh my god. So, on a side note, my friend actually thought he'd seen Nigel McGuinness in one of the pubs we went to on Saturday night. I think he was too small to be Nigel, but maybe it was. Nigel McGuinness comes out to some brilliant music. I think it's from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, the music. Maybe it was his Ring of Honor music. But Nigel comes out, looks in shape, looks like Nigel McGuinness, doing all the lariats, doing all the technical wrestling, doing all the Nigel McGuinness shit. It was awesome. And let me get the list up so I can get, you know, all the names proper. So yeah, Nigel McGuinness was number 3. After Nigel McGuinness, it was Kyle O'Reilly, and he came down and did the knees and did the elbows and the axe and the smash and the stuff. And then we had Zack Sabre Jr. Just sort of came out as well. The G1 winner, Zack Sabre Jr. came out. Just so you can have that as well. He got a massive pop as well. Then Roderick Strong came out, and then about 20 seconds later, honestly, Mark Briscoe came out, and at that point, I had decided, oh, we're not doing time limits. It's just whenever they want to come out. So Roderick Strong came out, backbreakers for everybody, you know, the half Nelson backbreakers, and the end of Heartache at one point. And then Hangman came out, started controlling the match, hit a buckshot lariat at one point, hit a deadeye for a near fall, had a stare down with Okada, which was nice, and they had a little brawl, and it was great. And then Jeff Jarrett came out, and he got a massive pop. Jeff Jarrett. Maybe not the biggest pop in the match. There was Nigel got a massive pop, Okada got a massive pop, the next entrant got a massive pop, Zack Sabre got a massive pop. But yeah, Jeff Jarrett came out, he cracked Hangman with the guitar while he was on the apron, and that took Hangman out eventually. This just chaotic shit going on. And then the next entrant was Ricochet. Now, before his music started, my friend and I, or my friend, we were sat next to each other, and he thought he heard the song say Ricochet really quietly. And I thought it did too. And then he put a big R on screen, and it was Ricochet, and he came out, and he got in the ring, and he did flips, and he flipped in the ring, and he did a shooting star press to the outside. He did Ricochet things. He's Ricochet. He's got his name. And then the last two entrants, one of them was Christian Cage. Came out, ran down to the ring. His music popped. People were very shocked. Christian Cage. It was basically another shot entrant, to be fair. And you know, this, I feel really bad because when the Royal Rumble has had like too many entrants or too many surprise entrants, I've gone, it's too many surprise entrants. You need to be focusing on the main roster. But this was focusing on the roster. Like Zack Sabre Jr. is part of New Japan's roster, and they do interlock with AEW enough. You know, Ricochet is going to stick around. Nigel, I have no idea what he's going to do. And Okada was part of the main roster. So the shocks were people who were on the roster, pretty much. So Christian Cage came out immediately. I think he speared Kyle O'Reilly or Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe hit a froggy bow at one point after going for a J driller, I'm pretty sure. So Christian speared someone, and then the counter went down again. And I actually was pretty sure Christian would be the last person after he came out. I thought he would just steal the pin. Because the guy next to me was like, it's going to be like Unforgiven 2008 when Jericho stole the pin in the Championship Scramble. But the countdown happened again, and it got to 1, and Luchasaurus's music hit. And I was very confused. I was like, oh, it's Luchasaurus, he's going to turn on Christian. And he ran down to the ring and immediately chokeslammed Kyle O'Reilly and just put Christian on top. Christian wins. Now, if that was the case, and that was what they were going to do, and Christian was just going to get the title shot through Killswitch or Luchasaurus or whatever they want to do, why did he not just come out to Killswitch music? Found it a bit silly. I don't think they needed to subvert our expectations in that way. Just let it go on a bit more. Let Luchasaurus be Killswitch a bit longer rather than going, it's Luchasaurus! Oh, we're so excited! And then he just helped Christian anyway. So that was a bit flat. I don't mind Christian winning because I think Christian's a decent heel to hold that sort of contract. Because the contract is like a Money in the Bank contract. It can be cashed in whenever. So I do like that. And Christian's a great person, a smarmy person to just get Nick Wayne and just get Killswitch to kill the champion. Hopefully not anytime soon, but probably eventually. So Christian wins the first All In Casino Gauntlet. I assume it'll maybe be a thing they have an All In the future. I'm fine with it. You know, the rules were not explained. And that's the problem. And if we all knew the rules, and now we know the rules, the actual action was excellent. Like, the action in the match was excellent. Because all those wrestlers are excellent wrestlers. Okada and Sabre and Nigel McGuinness and Hangman and Mark Briscoe and Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong. Like, these are all excellent wrestlers. Like, so what do you expect? 4 stars. I think 4 stars. Excellent, really. It was great. It wasn't my favourite thing on the show at that point because I thought the women's match was excellent. But Ricochet coming out. Nigel McGuinness. never saw coming. And it was weird because me and my friend had talked about Nigel returning so many times because of all the Bryan Danielson bashing. Are we going to get like a one more Bryan Danielson Nigel McGuinness match? It was like we were talking about Kip Sabian being on the show as well, and then like he ended up being on the pre-show. But yeah, I thought this was great. 4 stars. It was great action, and it was really like to us or like to a lot of the crowd. Like the crowd were mental in this match because of the ramp, and like every 90 seconds you'd turn 90 degrees and look at the ramp. But it was still excellent, and the actual overall stuff in the match was great. 4 stars. Kind of confusing finish. 4 stars. Didn't dampen the finish too much. Next match on the show was the American Championship match. Although they've put it on Wikipedia as the International Championship. Fair enough. The American Championship match as Will Ospreay returns back to England to face MJF, the American Hero. What a bastard. MJF, the American Hero, is okay. He's such a heel anyway. He almost doesn't need to be an American Hero. Fun fact as well, me and my friend saw MJF down Wembley Way on Saturday. We saw him just walking down the street. We all pointed him out. One of us pointed him out, and then we all turned around and looked at him. We just didn't want to bother him. It's like we were in a bar or a pub. We call it a pub in this country. And we were in a pub, and there was a guy at the bar who told us that Konosuke Takeshita was near us, and we just didn't go up to him because maybe part of it's probably I'm pretty shy, but also part of it is he's with his family or he's with his wife, and we don't bother him. That did make me think that Konosuke Takeshita would actually be in the Gauntlet, but apparently not, because he's another brilliant wrestler. So if Konosuke Takeshita's out there, we think you're a brilliant wrestler. But yeah, MJF, Will Ospreay, their match on Dynamite was unreal. And this match had a lot to live up to. Did it? No. I don't think it was quite as good as that match. I did finish this match and immediately turn to my friends and go 5 stars. Like, unbelievable. And it was unbelievable. Like, it was awesome. The crowd hated poor MJF. But that's his job. And he fucking... The absolute prick had a American flag. Had an American flag. And the crowd booed the man. Will Ospreay's entrance as well. He got an Assassin's Creed style entrance, which was orated by the voice actor of Ezio Auditore. Really cool entrance. It just went a bit long, so I was filming it on my phone, and the voiceover was going and going and going, and eventually I was just like, I'm going to stop, and then I'm just going to start filming again. When Elevated comes on, because everybody sings Elevated, it is AEW's best theme song. Just like everything, Will Ospreay is best at so many things. So, MJF, Will Ospreay, unreal match. Just an excellent match. It was, to me, the most look forward thing on the show, apart from maybe Bryan Danielson. I thought it'd be the best match on the show because Will Ospreay match, and the 59-minute match was so good. Basically, MJF is being a prick, and Ospreay hit a Oz cutter for a near fall. He hit a top rope Oz cutter. He went for an Oz cutter on the apron, but MJF dodged. And then later on in the match, it paid off because he finally got one on the apron. And after that dodge from MJF, he actually had a Panama Sunrise on the apron. And Ospreay got back in the ring for a near fall. At one point, Ospreay went for a Fosbury flop over the top rope. And MJF caught him and hit a tombstone pile driver on the outside. That was excellent. Ospreay with a bunch of cheeky Nando's kicks. MJF hit the Heat Seeker at one point for a near fall. And he hit a belt shot later in the match. He hit a belt shot after Ospreay hidden bladed one of the cameramen. Bryce Remsburg is looking at the cameraman. MJF hits a belt shot, near fall, picks him up, brainbuster, near fall, unbelievable. And then eventually Ospreay hits a Stormbreaker and a Hidden Blade. The Stormbreaker gets kicked out of. He goes for the Tiger Driver because he hasn't been wanting to do it because of the injury he caused to Danielson. And he can't do it. Ospreay, MJF low blows him. He low blows him. He grabs the diamond ring. And then a cameraman runs down the ring to replace the other one with a mask on. And everybody thought it was Adam Cole, but it was not Adam Cole. He grabs the ring. He pulls off his mask. It is Daniel Garcia, who MJF obviously took out with that massive tombstone off the middle rope a couple of weeks ago. Probably a couple of months ago, really. And MJF is shocked. He takes a Hidden Blade. And he takes the Tiger Driver 97. 1, 2, 3. Will Ospreay is the new American champion, although he was immediately gifted with the international title back. Unreal. I don't want to give this match 5 stars. I'm going to give it 4 3/4. Because although my initial impression was 5 stars, it wasn't as good as the hour match, which I think is 5 stars. And the fact that I know it isn't as good makes me think it wasn't. And I think in the moment I was caught up and just being like, 5 stars. I want to see a 5-star match in my life, in person. I want to see a 5-star match. I want to see a 5-star match. And it was 4 3/4. It was unreal. It was absolutely phenomenal. And it was the best match on the show by that point, very easily. My favourite thing, still in a lot of ways, is the Mariah match, because I was so impressed by it. But this match is insane. Will Ospreay is the best wrestler in the world on his day. And his day is so often now, it's unreal. Great match. Super shit. Go out your way to see it if you haven't watched All In. But yeah. Next match on the show, unfortunately, had a big problem. It had to follow that match. And you knew that at some point in the show, the crowd were going to get tired. Because they'd watched a 2-hour pre-show, or an hour and a half pre-show. I don't know. Maybe it was 2 hours. Maybe it started at like 1/2 past. But yeah. I could just randomly hear noise from downstairs. It's the TV. They'd had an hour and a half pre-show, and then they had 3 hours. You're tired, and the crowd were great for a lot of the show. And unfortunately, the next match just died. It was Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker DMD, my friend's favourite wrestler, against Mercedes Mone, the TBS champion. Mercedes got a cool entrance. She came down in like a queen's carriage with corgis, with Camille. And this match was wrestled technically fine. Like, they did stuff. Mercedes worked over Britt's back. She did a backbreaker on the top rope and just left Britt up there. And then she did a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. She did like a bank stab sort of thing. And she focused on Britt's back. And she had the bank statement in a 1.2. And, Britt went for the lockjaw a few times. But even when she's locking in the lockjaw and things like that, the crowd weren't really into it. And at one point, like, this kind of summed up how indifferent the crowd were. At one point, Britt Baker hit a Panama Sunrise and a curb stomp, got a near fall, and nobody reacted in the crowd. It was mental. I felt so sorry for them almost. Like, they were trying their desperately hardest to have a good match. Or a great match, even. And because they had near falls of things like the curb stomps and the lockjaw and just loads of shit. And eventually, there was one fairly high moment when Britt had the belt and she threw it at Camille and just took a bump. And at that point, the referee sent Camille to the back. But then, they basically just started trading backslides. Mercedes hit her kind of garbage moneymaker finish, which isn't a great finish. Mercedes also hit a backstabber at one point. Kind of like how she would do the backstabber into the bank statement. Mercedes hit the moneymaker and pinned her! And it was like clean. I don't know if Camille interfered once It was so clean, and it was baffling. Like, it was really baffling. I'm gonna give the match like 2 3/4 stars. Like, it was better than the Hook match. It was certainly more enjoyable than the Hook Jericho match, but it was so dead. Like, really disappointing because the feud's been pretty good, and they're two big stars, and Britt is like a big star for AEW. She's like their biggest woman's star, really, especially the homegrown one. Like, they've got Mercedes and Toni is not. I don't know if you can really count Toni as homegrown, but yeah, yeah, it's disappointing. 2.75 stars is how I will put this in the comments. Yeah, it is disappointing. Basically, is the best thing I can say. But it was not bad. It certainly wasn't bad. No match on the show was bad. The wrestlers are too good, really, for it to be bad. Next match on the show, penultimate match of the show, was Jack Perry, the Scapegoat. Oh, how time flies. How a year can change so many things. Jack Perry being on the pre-show with his Crimea River glass nonsense to the penultimate match of the show the year after so many twists and turns. Which Toni acknowledged all of the twists and turns in the last year on the media scrum. And Toni sometimes talks waffle, but at least he was honest that it's not been the best year. So Jack Perry, the Scapegoat, defending the TNT Championship. Britt, Mercedes, 2 3/4 stars. It was decent. So, Jack Perry, Scapegoat, Darby Allin. Darby didn't even have a special entrance this year, which was really annoying. I was quite disappointed. Oh, I've just forgotten about debuts. So we actually had Ricochet's debut, but also after the tag title match when the Young Bucks won, the Grizzled Young Veterans came out. Zach Gibson, James Drake, and they were going to attack the Bucks, but then they just attacked FTR. And GYV and FTR, the letters war, will have some great matches. So I really like Gibson and Drake, and they're still young. So, and with some tag teams out the door, it's another one, I guess. Yeah. So, crikey, where am I? Jack Perry and Darby Allin. Right. Jack Perry and Darby Allin apparently have had some time cut because the stadium's curfew. The show had to be off the air pretty much by 10. And it was probably like 5 minutes after or something. But they had some time cut. And it shows. They had a 10-minute match, which felt like a 5-minute match. And it was Darby taking control. He put the coffin up, right? So he stands the coffin up vertically. He puts Jack near it. He goes for a tope to Jack into the coffin. Jack moves. Darby dies in the coffin, like just literally dies and hits the coffin. Not like the greatest idea for a spot in the world. Like it wouldn't have even been that like painful for Jack if he just knocks him into the coffin. Like honestly, and at that point, Jack took control. He did get some glass. He got some glass in the ring. Real glass, Crimea River. I'll tell you what, best part of the match, best part of the whole match was him being in the ring, basking in the whole crowd, because the crowd were back into the show, I would say, at this point. The beginning of the match, not really, but from this point, maybe after Darby died into the coffin, after he dived and died in the coffin, sorry. At this point, they were chanting Crimea River at Jack, and it was beautiful. And he's just there, and he knows what's happening, and he knows what he needs to do, and he just basks it all in. And he goes for a powerbomb into the glass, and Darby back body drops him into the glass. He gets a skateboard and rides on Jack's back, which was cool. Darby at some point got thumbtacks in his head. I don't know how that was. And eventually they start going up the ramp. They start going up the ramp, and this is after Jack has duct taped Darby's hands together. And they're going up the ramp, and he gets Darby's belt, and he wraps his legs together, and he tosses him off the stage through 2 tables. He picks him up, gets a body bag, puts Darby in the body bag, drags the body bag down to the casket, opens the casket, pops the body bag in, lets Darby have a last fighting spirit moment to sit up. He kneed him, shut the coffin, and won. It was the most definitive finish on the whole show, and it was baffling. Like, this match, wrestling-wise, was much better than a lot of the matches, really. Like, I don't know. It certainly wasn't a bad match. Like, it was... I'm probably going to give it 3 stars. Because it was more enjoyable than the Brit match, because the crowd were into the second half. But the finish was mental. Like, Jack Perry just beat him. And I know that, like, I've read certain reports. One is they were trying to make him be like a sadistic killer. And it's like, but he's Jack Perry. Like, he's 180 pounds. Like, I know Darby's, like, tiny, but it was almost unbelievable how easily he's beaten Darby. And the reports that Darby's going to be, like, moving into the world title, he's beaten clean. I assume there would be Bucks or Okada or Sting, which we'll get to, but they just beat him. 3 stars. It was a good match. I really liked some of it. I really liked the death dive and the glass stuff, but he just beat him, and it was so weird. I think that Jack and Darby could have had a great match if they had like 7-8 more minutes, but it seems like they probably had a bunch cut. But it was still good. It went 10:40 or 10, call it 11. But yeah, it's still good. 3 stars. It was good. And then we moved into the main event, the final countdown. Bryan Danielson, the Owen Hart Cup winner, must not forget, against Swerve Strickland. How a year, as I just talked about Jack Perry, how a year changes things. Swerve Strickland was part of the Mogul Embassy. He was with AR Fox, and he had, he killed Nick Wayne. He betrayed Darby. He was Swerve Strickland, honestly. He was a tag team champion who I never saw being the world champion, never mind main eventing pay-per-views. And here we are. A year later, he is Swerve Strickland. He has beaten Will Ospreay in an unbelievable match. He beat Joe. He's beat Christian Cage. He beat Hangman. Like, the end of Swerve's year was unreal. Like, I think Wrestle Dream being in Washington, his home state, did so much for him. The crowd loved him. He beat Hangman. He then beat him at Full Gear in that Texas Death Fawcett match. Like, yeah, honestly, Swerve's year has been incredible, and it all kind of led up to this. You know, like, he was just in that coffin match last year, and that coffin match was good, and it was pushed as a big match because it was a Sting match. But he took the fall in that match. He was the one put in the coffin because he had to be, because they weren't going to beat Christian. I started a Christian Cage chant at one point, guys, as well. I started a He's My Dad chant, which is great, one of my favourite parts of the show. Just when he came running back out in the ladder match. So yeah, Swerve's year, incredible. I never foresaw Swerve Strickland being the world champion. Never foresaw him main eventing their version of WrestleMania. Bryan Danielson, one of my favourites of all time. The man's unreal. He is a GOAT in the literal sense. He is a greatest of all time wrestler. He's the embodiment of Chris Benoit for me in a lot of ways. He has a lot of his moves, and he's sensational. And this match between Swerve and Danielson, which has been built fairly well when they've actually built it, The promos have been from Danielson on Dynamite this week. I'm the best fucking wrestler in the world. I have been for 20 years. Unreal. Turning Swerve heel, I didn't think they needed to do, but they did it anyway. Fair enough. And this match was absolutely unreal. And I use that word a lot, but unreal. This was the best match I've ever seen live, and it wasn't... I mean, it was close, because MJF and Ospreay was excellent, but this match was special. It was a special match with two Washington guys in London Stadium, and that stadium refused to believe Bryan Danielson would lose. That stadium, when he came out, chanted the final countdown, 50,000 people all sang the final countdown. I actually think the sing-along aspect of AEW All In this year was worse than last year, because we sung the final countdown and we sung Elevated, but that was kind of it. Like, there were no other singy songs. Judas wasn't there. There was no Cult of Personality. What else were we going to sing? I sung Swerve's song. Swerve's song is a banger. Big Pressure, it's a banger. And obviously Hook's got a banging song too. But the single aspect one was good this year. But the final countdown was maybe sung louder and by more people than any song last year at All In. It was special singing that song and hearing Europe's final countdown. And Danielson coming out to Europe's final countdown. And the match that preceded that was excellent. It was something special. It started off with mostly strikes, and it was them hitting each other and kicking each other until Swerve Strickland, who is now, I guess, a heel, used a DVD on the apron, which was also onto the belt, and that busted poor Bryan Danielson open. And you've got Bree and Birdie and Buddy at ringside, and Swerve just takes Bryan over to them and starts doing the rapid curb stomps in front of their kids. And maybe the only the thing in the whole match I didn't like. I remember Brian Alvarez being really upset at Tommy Dreamer and Raven having a hardcore match in TNA in front of Dreamer's parents, Dreamer's kids, and how they eventually started crying and they had to get taken away. Now, these kids actually did get into it when Brian was doing a comeback later, so fair enough. Maybe they're clued up on it enough, but, they're young kids still. It's the only thing in the match I don't really like. Brian Danielson's kids, he can do whatever he wants. But from that point, he was destroying Danielson. He was grinding his fist. We thought it was a screwdriver. He was grinding his fist into Danielson's head until Danielson finally got a comeback. He hit a tiger suplex and then a top rope tiger suplex, which looked very safe, terrific. And then he was getting his drop kicks in the corner, the yes kicks, but Swerve would eventually fight back and hit a swerve stomp and a last call for a near fall. Danielson finally was fighting back. He went for the label locker, or the yes lock, sorry, a few times. He would hit the Budokai knee on Swerve. Swerve no-sold it, basically rebounded into the corner, stood up, and the crowd were just like, you fucked up, to Bryan. And he gave him a last call, a house call kick. Gave him the house call, pinned him, 1, 2. Danielson kicks out. I thought that was it. I thought Danielson was done at that point. I was so sad at that point. And he picks him up and hits the JML driver, which is the finish he used as a kill shot, I believe, in Lucha Underground. 1, 2. Danielson kicks out again. And we are going the distance, boys. So, Danielson eventually fights back. He hit a Budokai knee for a near fall, finally getting Swerve off his feet. He hit another Budokai knee, which knocked Swerve into the corner. And then he locked him in the yes lock, and Swerve refused to tap. So he grabbed the fingers, wrenched them back, pulled his arm back, put him in an omoplata, kind of like he did to Okada when he made him tap out at Forbidden Door. And Swerve finally tapped Bryan Danielson won the AEW World Championship in the main event of All In 2024. I was screaming with happiness. You know, Cody winning at Mania, like, watching that from my house was amazing. This was their kind of attempt at a Cody Mania win. That one felt more special because it was Cody winning, first world title, against Roman, longest reign, Mania, the story had gone on for long enough, like, you know, there's so many things going for that one. This one, though, considering they didn't have a long build, they, you know, they had an unbelievable match that preceded the title win. You know, there was loads of smoke and mirrors as well for Cody. And that, again, that was a better moment than this. I do just want to say that. I think the Mania moment for Cody was unreal. This moment here for AEW, though, is their version. And it was just spectacular. Brie comes in the ring with the kids and they're dancing, and Wheeler Yuta and Pac and Claudio come out with their titles, and they all hug Danielson, and they have announced at the end of the show that Forbidden Door is at London next year, so we're doing Forbidden Door next year. We'll have to see. I'm getting married next year, and it is a couple of weeks after, so we'll have to see. And then the year after, they're doing All In at Wembley again. So All In is in Texas next year, so they're taking a break from Wembley for All In. I assume Forbidden Door won't be at Wembley. I assume it'll be probably the O2, which I've been to before for wrestling as well, so that's fine, even if it was there. This match was sensational. This was a way to end the show. I'll never forget this. Honestly, the guy next to me, when we were walking home to our digs, which were only around the corner, he said, what was everyone's favourite moment? Because I know Ross's. And it was obviously Danielson winning. Like, you know, winning the belt isn't necessarily the important part. It's not retiring. Danielson's one of my favourites of all time. If I had to do a list of 10 now and just throw names out there, like Angle, Chris Benoit, Danielson, Okada, Ospreay, Gunther, Johnny Gargano, like, that's, you know, my list. Like, he's one of my favourites of all time. He has had such a brilliant run in AEW. This was such a great crescendo to that run. You know, just a brilliant end to the show and a brilliant end to their WrestleMania show. 5 stars. I have seen a match in person, 5 stars. I'm pretty confident. And I was pretty sure, like, I remember when I finished All In last year, I was like, oh, I don't think I've seen a match 5 stars in person. I have a feeling Dave could give the Ospreay match 5 stars as well. I'm pretty sure he'll give this one 5 stars. I'd be very surprised if this didn't get 5 stars. This was unreal. Considering the whole segment as well, this was absolutely unreal shit. Unreal. And that ended All In. And we went home, and I've had, like, nearly, 24 hours, 20 hours to look back on it. And it's just one of the best experiences of my life. I am such a mark for wrestling sometimes, and I think sometimes I look down on it. Like, but when you're there, like when Pac won, I was such a mark for Pac winning. Mariah May winning, I was such a mark for. Like, and Danielson winning, and it wasn't even about the belt. And Danielson winning and not retiring, I was such a mark for that. And I get a little bit more Bryan Danielson time. Show overall, I can't remember what I gave All In last year. Did I give it an 8 or a 9? This show was bad, so I'm going to give it a 9. And just hope that I didn't give it last year's show like a 10, but I don't think I would have. A 9 out of 10. This was brilliant. Again, I'm trying my best. It was absolutely great. I think the best matches were the Danielson match, the MJF Ospreay match, and the Mariah May match. There are only 2 matches that I've got, like, 4 3/4 and 5, but I think last year I only had 2 matches at 4.5. So do with that as you will. You'll make your own judgment on it. And a lot of my friends had various matches that they probably thought better, depending on what they could see. And I'm very grateful for the guys I went with for letting me have a seat where I could see the screen with my monocle. But yeah, when you pay for these events and you pay, big money for them. You know, and our seats were by the ramp, so ring-wise, probably really hard for us to see. But there were a couple of screens. There wasn't a screen adjacent to the ramp, which was annoying because that would have been easy to see on. But there's a screen all the way across the stadium, which I had to look at. But when you pay big money for these things and your seats aren't the world's best seats, like we were on the floor and we were right next to the ramp, so seeing the Tron, unreal. Hearing the music and the pyro, and the pyro was unreal for most of the show, especially Orange Cassidy, who had very special pyro, whose pyro was just one tiny firework. Brilliant. Best use of pyro I've probably ever seen, actually. When you pay a lot of money and your seats aren't that great, it's all about how is the actual show. And it was an excellent show. 9 out of 10. I think it was better than all than last year. And where does it rank on AEW's like all-time shows? For me, it's so special. It was built well, and the matches delivered, and there was a bunch of title changes. And last year's All In kind of felt like a transitional show because, you know, Ospreay wasn't a full-time wrestler in AEW, and neither was Kota Ibushi, and you didn't really have that in any of the big matches this year. All the big matches, the big singles matches, MJF and Ospreay, both main wrestlers, Danielson Swerve, Mariah, Toni, Britt Baker and Mercedes, they were all main roster stays who had months or weeks, more weeks, to build the feuds. The card was built much better. I was more interested in most of the feuds this year. And, you know, the crowd loved MJF and Adam Cole last year, and they loved Ospreay, and they sang Jericho's song. But nothing felt as over as, you know, certain things like the Final Countdown did. You know, like, an excellent show. Excellent show. 9 out of 10. I absolutely loved it. I'm gushing because I'm a mark. And sometimes you're allowed to be a mark. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been Raw Wrestle a Lot. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. Tell me your thoughts on AEW All In 2024. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What was your favourite match? For me, it'll be Danielson Swerve. Followed by MJF Ospreay and Mariah and Toni Storm. Have you got any AEW shirts? I've got a few. I've got this one. I've got a Blackpool Combat Club Claudio Castagnoli one, which we all wore BCC shirts because we thought it'd be cool if we all represented. I've got a Chris Statlander one as well, and I've got a CMFTR one, which I wore last year. What was your least favourite match on the show? For me, it would have been the Hook match. Most disappointing match would have been the Britt Baker match. And yeah, I guess thanks for watching. This is a marquee video, but sometimes when something you're so passionate about, sometimes you're allowed to be a mark. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been Revolver Wrestling.